is going into effect in November. And again, Kay Ivey, she did sign it. So let's go a bit deeper tonight on this. LaTonya Wilkins is with us, a DEI expert and practitioner, founder of Change Coaches, works with some of the biggest companies out there. I looked at your website. It's all the biggies, LaTonya. So DEI bureaucracies, we know, they have grown considerably on college campuses over the last 10, 20 years. Publicly funded, yet they often say, you know, students say, you ignore issues of Asian students, of Jewish students. You're not hearing me. You're prioritizing LGBTQ or black students. Was Alabama's move appropriate then?
No, you know, it's interesting because there's all this DEI backlash going on that doesn't really make any sense. I think there's a lot of misinformation and misconceptions around what DEI actually does. What we're seeing is what a lot of folks in my field call overreach, and folks are overreaching what the Supreme Court decision actually said, and that was that you couldn't provide race-based admissions. And they're actually overreaching this into other areas that don't actually need to be reached into. Some of these areas are just fine.
Okay, so I was trying to do my own research today. There was this Harvard Business Review article that kept coming up. The researchers looked at thousands of studies on DEI trainings and activities. And here was the conclusion. The quote is, "The positive effects of diversity training rarely last beyond a day or two. And a number of studies suggest that it can activate bias or spark a backlash," end quote. I guess the question is, why fund it then, much less compel it?
Yeah, you know, again, there's all these misconceptions of what DEI is, and a lot of people don't know some of the tactics that make DEI work. I know what article you're talking about. Actually, I provide that to a lot of my clients, and there is research that says that if you're just doing training, for example, on unconscious bias, which a lot of folks that are listening, you probably had DEI training at that basic level, and there is research that says that providing this training can have backlash. But that's the thing, is it doesn't really need to start or stop there. DEI efforts that work really focus on culture. They focus on inclusion. They focus on belonging. They're not trying to change hearts and minds. They're working on structures and systems. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of folks that say this or see this, they've probably been part of it, and they've seen that backlash, or they've seen people like get more biased. And again, that's because they're not doing it right, and they're not doing it adhering to the research that we know.
And this Alabama law, it also extends, as far as my reading, to teaching. And we all get this age-appropriate element, you know, a kindergartner being taken on an oppression walk or something like that. We've all seen those stories. Everybody understands. But how far would it restrict something like college professors at state universities in the way they would teach?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I'm sure some of the listeners and viewers have seen, like, even the Don't Say Gay bill, there's been some backlash with that, and there's been some of that bill was overturned, and now you can talk about these things in schools. You can say the word gay, you can't say LGBTQ, you can't have conversations. So I don't really see that getting walked back again, because again, that just was something that was a victory. Where people can. And again, with college campuses, it's like college campuses are a place where people can learn, where people can explore all types across identities. And so, yeah, I think that would be really tough if you couldn't do that. You couldn't teach in schools. What I'm seeing is with these bills, you can't use state funds for a lot of these things. But when it comes to teaching in the classroom, I think it would be almost impossible.
I see. So like the administrators and what have you, they might have to go. Okay, 30 seconds we have left here, and I want to ask you, DEI, you alluded to this, exploded in prominence 2020. I think last year it went down by 8% in job listings and stuff. We're seeing companies scale back. And some have recognized, you know, inclusion also has to include our conservatives, our moderates. Where is the happy medium?
Yeah, I think the happy medium, and I think what we're seeing a lot of now is belonging and inclusion. Like, everybody needs to belong. It's a human need. Everybody wants to belong at work. And again, it's figuring out ways for everyone to feel like they belong. I mean, it's even in some of the talks we talk about with like return to office and going back, that's belonging, like being able to belong, being able to bring different types of lifestyles, parenting, like having that flexibility. That's part of DEI. So I think it's changing the conversations, again, more broadly to inclusion and belonging.
Sounds like still kind of shaping up every day. LaTonya Wilkins, thanks for your time.
Yep, thank you.